Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. Vijender Singh Tamar, Associate Professor in English. Presently, I am posted at Government College, Guda. Well, dear students, today I am going to take up two literary terms. As you are students of English literature, so everyone should know these literary terms. And these are not prescribed to any particular class, that is first year, second year, third year, MA previous or MA final. These literary terms are useful for a students in order to understand what the poet or author has stated in his compositions. They will help you as long as you will study literature. So the literary terms which we are going to take up today are two. One is lyric, another is elegy. First of all, we will take up lyric. As the name indicates, the term lyric is actually taken from or derived from the Greek word lyre, L-Y-R-E. What is lyre? Lyre was a musical instrument known to Greeks. Whenever a person used to sing something, a lyre was played on. So in the past, in the ancient times, whenever any song which was sung in the accompanying of lyre was called lyric. With the passage of time, certain features developed and we started terming lyric only that composition which fulfill those features. And the poets who compose lyrics are called lyrical poets. So lyrical poets in their compositions try to show specific moods and emotions through words. Such moods express a range of emotions from extreme to nebulous about life, love, death, or other experiences of life. Means the mood can be sad, mood can be very happy. It can be any kind of mood. Lyrics are composed describing all kinds of moods by different poets. The idea is lyric is a composition, short composition, which is sung in the accompaniment of lyre. And it describes a particular emotion. The emotion can be sad or of happiness. It can be any kind of emotion. Now, in order to understand it in more easy way, let us talk about some qualities, some features, some characteristics of a lyric. First characteristic is that it is a short poem. It is not a very long poem, characterized by simplicity in language and treatment. Idea is language of the poet is very simple. It is understood even by layman. It deals with a single emotion, which is generally stated in the first few lines. After reading few lines, you can tell whether the emotion belongs to happiness or sadness. Another quality is it is musical. Verbal music is an important element in its appeal and charm. You will find in music, particularly lyric, the words which will rhyme together and they will affect the listener or audience, whoever may be. The various devices are used by poets to enhance the music of their lyrics, to increase the musical quality so that the listener gets impressed very easily. A lyric is always an expression of moods and emotions of a poet. So the best lyrics are emotional in tone. Here we do not use our brain, we use our heart. That is, the lyrics are concerned with our feelings, with our emotions, not with our mind. It is characterized by intensity and poignancy. They affect the heart very seriously. The best lyrics are the expression of intensely felt emotions. Spontaneity is another important quality of a lyric. Spontaneity, as you know, Wordsworth has said, a poem is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. Means if the emotions start coming, then they will come out naturally. The poet will not require any efforts to bring before the audio or listener his emotion or her emotions. They will come naturally and spontaneously. The poet will sing as if his inner urge is asking him to express himself or herself. There are many poems which can be termed as lyrics. Robert Herrick's poem entitled Two Blossoms is one of the most popular examples of lyric. So with this, we come to an end with lyric. So lyric is a short composition, short poem, verbal music, spontaneity, single emotion. Emotion can be sad or happy, whatever it may be. That is called lyric. Now let us come to elegy. Elegy is also a lyric, but it is a special kind of lyric. Elegy is an expression of the emotion of sorrow or despair. In other words, we can say an elegy is a mournful, sad, or melancholic poem or a song that expresses sorrow for someone who has been lost or died. In other words, elegy is a song, but it is written at the death or loss of some near and dear ones. The subject which is described in elegy is very dear to the poet, and he expresses the sorrow of his heart in that poem. Originally, when elegy started, the poets were bound by certain rules that they used to follow a meter alternating 6 foot and 5 foot lines like that. But in modern times, no such foundation is there on the poets. They are free to use any kind of meter, but the mood of the poet remains the same. That is very sad. The poet is sad at the death of somebody, as it depicts a very serious subject, so the mood is very serious. Elegy written in a country churchyard by Thomas Green and Lycidas by John Milton are the two most popular examples of elegy. In other words, elegy is a kind of lyric. It is a special kind of lyric as it expresses the feelings of sorrow. Expresses sorrow of some at the death of somebody. Now, some features of the elegy. Just like a classical epic, this Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bible, Paradise Lost, begins with an invocation to goddess Saraswati or muse. The same thing is applied, or it is a tradition that a poet uses the reference to some traditional mythology, some muse. He gets some kind of inspiration to compose that elegy. It often involves a poet who knows how to phrase the thoughts imaginatively in the first person. Means who has a grace of God that he can write his ideas in a very impressive manner. In elegy, as the subject is very near and dear to the poet, he presents that person of great importance. His death is a loss to great humanity, So questions are raised by the poet about destiny, justice, fate, what God has done or God has done injustice, etc., etc. Such things were also expressed by the poet. The poet associates the events of the deceased with the events of his own life by drawing a subtle comparison. That such a person, when he was alive, he used to do this and that, etc. He was such a great, you can say, asset to the mankind. Like that, things are presented by the poet. And this is a kind of, you can say, digression away from the main subject, and it gives the poet space to go beyond the main or crude subject of a deeper level, where connotation might be metaphorical. The idea is, by going away, that person who is described in this poem was a great personality, he gets opportunity how to describe his things, his ideas before the audience. And sometimes, or most of the time, the poet is able to give a message which is universal in appeal, which is applicable to all. It is not, you can say, limited to somebody else. The scope is very wide for the poet. And towards the end of the poem, poet generally tries to provide comfort to ease the pain of the situation, as it was a great loss. But after describing every kind of sorrow of his heart which has been felt by the poet, towards the end of the poem, the poet gets tries to get some kind of relief from the situation. As we know, the Christian elegy usually proceed from sorrow and misery. Means in the beginning, the person describes sorrow and misery to hope and happiness. And in the end, hope and happiness, because they say that death is just a hindrance in the way of passing from the mortal state into the eternal state, that you go into the lap of God. So an elegy is not always based on a plot. We will not find any kind of story in the elegy. It is not a compulsory thing. And this was a general kind of elegy. Sometimes pastoral elegy is also composed by the poets, in which the deceased and the poet himself appears in the form of shepherd, and they express their sorrow. So the pastoral elegy is very important subtype of elegy. It represents both the poet and the one he mourns as shepherd. Shelley's Adonis is an example of pastoral elegy. We know P.B. Shelley. P.B. Shelley's the poem Adonis is regarded as one of the best 5 elegies in English. So thank you.